All right, guys, welcome to the Hook Point, the new podcast officially. We are going to be talking with guest Cody Solberg tonight. He's a Green Bay guide and fishing nut, so should be a good conversation. How's it going, guys? How's the fishing been? Let me know in the chat. Thanks for joining, guys. As usual, we've got a stream going on YouTube and also on Instagram tonight. So you guys on YouTube, you'll be able to hear my guest, Cody. You won't be able to see him, but on Instagram, you guys can see him there. So a little bit of a quick fishing update before Cody joins. We have not lost any ice here whatsoever, so we're still ice fishing pretty hardcore. We do have a few open water opportunities coming up, so the Mississippi River, the Fox River, those are all open for walleye fishing, and then our Lake Superior tributary steelhead season starts here this weekend, so that's going to be a upcoming opportunity. So here's Cody. He's hopping on right now. We'll let him in. So yeah, this is officially the first. Well, hey Cody, how you doing?
What's going on?
Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
This is officially the first night that this is going to be a named podcast. So I'm doing this YouTube too. So I'm basically doing a live here on Instagram and then on YouTube as well. So I'm creating a podcast called The Hook Point on YouTube, which may expand into more at some point. But
sweet. Well, I'm happy to be a part of it.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming. Lots of people joining on. So how's it going, everybody? We are going to be talking a lot of Green Bay fishing, probably Fox River fishing with Cody. He's a guide down there and fishing nut, just like a lot of you guys. So you're getting some heat already in the comments, which is awesome.
I see that.
So Cody, tell us a little bit about how you got started down there and a little bit about yourself and kind of how you got into guiding and all the other stuff you're doing.
Oh man, it was a journey for me, man. I mean, I kind of started filming YouTube content like 8 years ago. I think I posted my first video on YouTube ever, basically just to kind of, I don't know, share with my friends and family. I wasn't really thinking it was going to turn into much. Honestly, I kind of started doing it probably around the same time, like the whole Guggen squad and them started coming up. So I guess if I would have took it a little more seriously at the time, I probably would have grew a little faster, along with those guys. But I just didn't take it very seriously at the time, and I was just posting for fun, friends, family, and stuff like that. And a couple years down the road, it just kind of, I started, doing some collaboration with other YouTube anglers around the area, like MB Edits, and I see Slayman's in here from Mindak.
Yep.
So I did some work with Mindak for a while too, and most of that stuff is kind of what started putting me on the map a little bit.
Okay.
But it's kind of funny though, because after I would probably say my 4th year in, I kind of quit. I guess I didn't necessarily quit. I just kind of stopped posting for a while. I finished college and I actually got a job in Green Bay as a mechanical estimator. So I wasn't per se doing YouTube full time anymore. I guess part time.
Sure. There's NB Edits right there.
For a little while. Definitely got out of it for a little while, and I kind of I wasn't really posting for 2 years. Yeah, it was my first full year of guiding.
Okay.
And I think I really didn't run that many trips last year. I think I ran maybe 20-ish, maybe not even that many. But this year, I'm definitely booking a lot more trips than I did last year. But I just started getting into guiding last year for the first time, actually, doing it or taking clients out. So, but Yeah, after my little break from YouTube, I landed a job as a marketing specialist for Tideway, and that kind of opened up some doors for me to, proceed with the YouTube thing, at least from my channel. So I started creating more content back, I think 2020 or 2021. And all these years now, they all just kind of lump together. But it's either 2020 or 2021. I really went hard on the ice fishing content, and I started to kind of basically grow my channel again to the point where it is today, which I think I got just over 5,000 or 5,500 subscribers now. So within the 2 years here, I've grown pretty substantially. But my views just kind of don't match up with my subscribers. I get more views than I have subscribers, which I'm all right with. But
yeah, that's the new YouTube. So
right. Yeah, I'm trying to think of more ways, to get creative and get more views and get more people to hit the subscribe button. But as long as people are liking and watching my content, it's really all I care. So
yep. Yeah, I see a couple guys in the comments here. NB Edit says, "Hey, how you doing? You guys put out some awesome walleye content too. I love your stuff."
Yeah, Nick's coming down to fish with me tomorrow on the Fox.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that was another question. Any monster walleyes on the Fox yet? Any real big ones?
We actually, my girlfriend Haley and I went out last week, and we got into some big ones. I think that at the trolling video I posted last week, we got 2 over 28 in that video, and they were tanks. They were blimps, just full of spawn, ready to go. So that was cool, seeing 2 big females hit the boat in one night. But other than that, I think that's the only 2 monsters that we got so far. We got a number of fish around that 26-inch range, but the water's just been really cold yet.
Yep.
So it's getting there slowly but surely. But Fox opened up in February, which was really neat.
Yeah, that's super early.
Yeah, but it really hasn't gotten to that point yet. Where those walleyes are really starting to do their thing. But a couple of warm days, and that'll change really fast.
Yeah. One question for you from PTS 775. How do you feel on using lighter rods for walleyes?
Right now, I'm a big fan of using a medium light, especially when you're working finesse style jigs, like hair jigs, jigging a plastic. I've even used the medium light with blade baits, especially this time of year when you're really trying to get a slow presentation to those fish. That softer tip is almost going to be more of a benefit to you than a super stiff or sensitive harder tip, simply because when you're doing the lift cadence, whether it's with a hair jig, jigging a plastic, or even a blade bait, a lot of times when you lift up, you're going to feel the resistance from that fish. And if you try to set the hook on it too hard with a stiffer rod, you're just going to rip the bait right out of the fish's mouth. So having that softer tip basically going to give you a little bit more comfort, a little bit more versatility to put the berries to the fish and get them to the boat. But you're still going to need stout backbone on the rod to get it in. But those softer medium lights are definitely, in my eyes, a rod of choice for early spring walleyes.
And there's other factors too, like the that slower load on the rod creates a softer action on the lure too. So the more stiff your rod is, the more fast that lure is going to snap every time you hit it. So with that softer tip, it kind of gets going slower and flutters slower, and it's a slower action on the bait. And if you're using small baits with light hooks, you can definitely hold fish a lot better on a medium light too, because it loads that rod up really nice.
Yeah, and it's just a lot more fun. Finding any fish on light tackle is a lot of fun, So I'll always, this time of the year, 7.2 medium light, 10-pound braid to 10-pound fluorocarbon leader, even 15-pound braid to 15-pound fluoro leaders is pretty much money. Yeah.
Do you find that that the braid, when it's really cold, do you have any problems with that freezing up on the reels, or not too bad?
Oh yeah, we've had some problems with that this year already.
Yeah.
And that it opened in February. Obviously, it was really cold in February, so we get some days where it's brutal, and you just kind of work through it. I've had a couple trips already where clients, every other cast you get a big wind knot or something, and you get really good at taking them out when it happens a lot. But that's just the name of the game. If you're going to be out there fishing, it's just something you got to battle through,
Yeah, and like when I'm steelhead fishing this time of year, I spool my rods with mono because of that reason.
Yeah.
Braid might be better, but mono
Yeah.
doesn't freeze on you.
I mean, and that's one way around it to do the mono thing. I simply just like the braid because I can feel everything 10 times better with the braid than I can with the mono. So I just try my best to battle through it. Obviously, if you're using a rod with, wider height or guides on it, you won't have too much of an issue. My rods, just because of how they're built, they have, smaller eyelids on them, so they do freeze up fairly fast. But the thing with the Della Bay rods too, they got the recoil guides, so they're really easy to kind of just flick them, and knock that ice off.
Yeah, we had a comment to that effect. It's not the line freezing, it's the rod guides, and that is correct. 3/8 jig with a pulsar, that's a classic. Yep. We got one question: what temp do they really start going? And going, I guess, is kind of that's a relative term, I suppose. But maybe you mean actually spawning and laying eggs, which is not necessarily what you want, because when they're doing that, they're not probably going to eat. But they might if you get the bait on their nose. But what temp do you think that the walleyes actually drop eggs?
42 degrees is kind of anywhere from 40 to 42 degrees is kind of that temperature that they'll do that at. So, I mean, once you start getting to 40 degrees, you'll start catching fish that are either dropping or have already dropped. But once that temp gets to 42, I would say most of the fish are going to be dropping their eggs around that.
Yeah, that's my experience too. And I have a buddy who works for the fisheries department here, and he does a lot of the walleye netting and harvesting spawn and all that. And that's what he says too. It's about that 42 degrees, but it really, in our lakes, like our natural lakes, the walleye spawn, it's pretty unreal how spread out it is. Like, there'll be fish spawning in, like mid 30s, and there'll be fish spawning in upper 40s to 50. It's just, they range, but the bulk of them, yeah, it's in that 42 degree area. Let's see here. NB Edit says, Cody, if you could only choose one option, what is your go-to bait of confidence for early spring walleyes on the Fox? Good question.
Yeah, that is a good one. I mean, there's a couple of them, but if I had to choose one option as a go-to, I'm probably gonna go with a blade bait. Blade bait's a pretty good confidence bait for me. I know I can catch them on it, no matter basically what time of the year it is, whether it's fall, spring, summer. The blade bait's pretty versatile. If I had a second option, I would definitely go with a hair jig.
Okay.
I mean, you can't beat a hair jig in cold water. That's something I really started playing with this year. I hadn't used a whole lot in the past, and the hair jig bite from February till now has just been like so.
That's awesome. And I'm with you. That'd be if I could only take one bait with me in the boat, I'd have a few different sizes of blade bait, because like you said, it just doesn't matter what the conditions are. High and muddy and cold, like low and clear, you just can catch them on it. I mean, it's just a bait you can catch fish on day in and day out. I mean, you might not smash them, but you're going to probably catch some fish on it. And not just walleyes either. Everything else will eat those blade baits too.
Oh, heck yeah.
I've caught some big catfish on blade baits. We've caught carp on blade baits. We've caught, sheep's head on blade baits. We've caught, you name it, white bass, muskies. Yeah. I mean, everything eats those things. So yeah, that's a pretty awesome bait. And I didn't use them until the last couple of years. I didn't really get onto the blade bait thing, but since I figured it out, man, I've used them in all kinds of conditions. Another great time to use them is for like super early bass, like early smallmouth that are still on their winter structure, like on those deep reefs and stuff like that. You can go out and pound the smallmouth on blade baits, just doing the same thing, just and all of a sudden you feel weight and there's a smallmouth on there. We've done really well doing that too, like right after ice out.
Yeah, that's one thing I really haven't targeted a whole lot is bass. I'm planning on doing some smallmouth this year just because Green Bay is world-renowned fishery for small bass. But
I'm sure you've caught a few targeting walleyes.
Oh yeah, we run into them every now and then.
Yeah. Is the Yamaha VMAX the best outboard ever made?
Well, come on. I got a Merc on the back of my boat. I don't know what do you got on yours?
I've got a Merc as well. Mine's an older boat, but it's been running good for me. I haven't had any problems, but
Yeah. I just upgraded. Well, my new boat has the 300 Pro XS on it, and so far I've got nothing but good things to say, about that motor. It's got a lot of torque compared to the 150 that I had.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm excited. I'm really excited to get it into some big water. I mean, I know the motor can move the boat, really quick. But I really want to see what kind of hole shot it has in some bigger water. I'm going out to Lake Erie here in a couple of weeks, and that'll be its first true test.
Okay, awesome. Erie would be a sweet trip.
Oh, it always is.
I mean, that's like another world when you're talking walleyes.
Oh yeah, it's a walleye factory out there.
Why does every garage-made blade bait have the most garbage hooks ever? I can probably tell you why. Because cheap hooks don't cost very much money, and those guys don't have a huge budget to make those baits. That's probably why. Like, to put good hooks on a bait costs almost as much as the bait costs to make. So, like, there's a big difference when you're making hundreds of them and you just have a small business. A lot of those guys, it just comes down to price point. I mean, they'd have to charge double what they're charging to put good hooks on them, and half of them get broke off in an hour of fishing anyways. So, that's my guess. What do you think, Cody?
I mean, I'm probably right there with you on that one. I know a few of them are doing replacement hooks and stuff now that you can purchase, but I suppose it probably will depend on, the blade bait, the style of the blade bait too, and what kind of hook you put on it. You don't necessarily want to disrupt the action of the bait. So that probably has a factor to play in it, but I'm not 100% positive.
And what are they selling? Like what they're calling like garage made blade baits for? $5 a piece, $4 or $5 a piece, $6 a piece, maybe.
I guess I'm not really 100% sure what they would mean by garage.
Like you go buy an Acme or any kind of higher end blade bait, they're gonna be $10 plus a piece.
Oh yeah.
So
they're more than ripping wraps at this point.
They are. Yep. And that's the difference. I mean, they have the better hooks on them because they cost more. Just the way it goes. Something about a tournament. Ready for the tourney, Cody? Can't wait. Going to be a blizzard.
Oh yeah. He's talking about the Swamp Talk tournament.
Oh, okay.
Saturday.
Yep.
Yeah, it's gonna be another fun one. It seems like every year the weather seems to find a way to screw us for that tournament. And it seems like this will be another decent year with a bunch of snow. So
is that on the Fox?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not too familiar with anything that goes on down there. That's kind of out of my range for the most part. I fished it a couple times, but it's a haul for me.
You got to come down and hop in the boat and catch some fish, dude. It's a blast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What's the best lure to catch big carp on? Geez, lure? I don't know. I've caught more big carp on swim baits than anything else myself, like little paddle tail swim baits. I've caught several nice carp on those accidentally. I haven't targeted them, but they eat them.
Yeah.
Probably if you want to talk really realistically, it's a fly of some sort. Like there's some fly guys that target carp with flies that are pretty insanely consistently catching them. So
yeah, that's interesting. I've never really targeted carp. I always get them on blade baits and stuff from the Fox just on accident. But
yeah, they'll definitely eat a blade bait here and there. But I have some friends. Actually, one of them was in here a minute ago. I don't know if Chris is still here. He could probably answer this, but he's actually fished Green Bay. Oh, there he is. Yeah, he's answering right now. Dragonfly nymph for carp. That a boy, you're learning. He's so proud of me right now. I guarantee you. I have not caught a carp on a fly, but I know he has caught many on a fly, and I think some of them in Green Bay actually they sight fish for him on the flats.
Oh yeah.
So
I know they bow fish. They bow fish for him too.
yep, they get big down there.
Yeah, of course it was Clinch Outdoors that asked that question too.
Of course. So I mean, like all the local made blade baits have those brass hooks that bust apart. Yeah, that's what we're talking about. They're just bulk, no name hooks is what they are.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I haven't had too many issues with my blade bait hooks. Every now and then, if you foul hook a fish or something, they'll end up getting bent up somehow. Or if you do end up foul hooking a carp or any type of rough fish, they can get kind of bent out of shape. But
or if you hit rocks, rocks will
true.
definitely do it. Let's see here. What do we got? Rippin' wraps are on sale for $5 at Cabela's and Bass Pro. That's a good deal for a rippin' wrap.
Yeah, that's a really good deal.
Ball of dough, naked hook with corn. Yep, those are two I've heard, but those aren't really lures. He was kind of asking about lures for carp. What are they biting on the Fox? We already talked about 2 presentations. Do you have any more presentations that they're hitting right now?
Yeah, so I think we talked about blade hair jigs. Jigging a plastic is a really good go-to. I'm a big fan of the 4-inch ringworms.
Mm-hmm.
Peppered chartreuse is a really good color. Any purple chartreuse tail, chartreuse orange cord. Those are all really good plastics that have been producing fish. Jigging a minnow, tried and true. I mean, that's always going to be something to go to if on those really negative days. But ripping wraps will really start to fire up soon too, as that water temperature starts to spike and they start chasing a little bit, or if you get any type of dirty water, those louder aggressive baits are gonna definitely put fish, in the boat for you. And I've heard a few guys playing around with big spoons too.
Mm-hmm.
I have a love-hate relationship with those things. I don't honestly think I've ever caught a walleye on one yet. So yeah, most of the binks that I've had got tossed over the boat just because I'm sick of trying to catch fish on them. But one of these days I'm going to learn how to use things.
Okay. Chris Sagnes says he caught 5 over 40 inches one day in Door County, which, yeah, that beats most people's 5-fish bag of any other species. That's for sure. Those are all huge carp. Yeah. On the fly rod.
That's sweet.
I mean, those things, you hook a 40-inch carp on a fly rod, you've got some action. Like that's going to go crazy pretty quick.
Oh, for sure.
I'll tell you what, when I'm fishing, I fish more of the Mississippi this time of year, and I think the Mississippi tends to be a little bit deeper maybe. So like we're fishing walleye and sauger down to like 30 feet on the Mississippi. I don't know how deep you're typically fishing on the Fox, but
yeah, not typically that deep. I would say there's some bigger fish sitting on the deeper edges right now. They can be tough to catch though.
Mm-hmm.
But most of the water depth that we're targeting right now is, anywhere from 15 to 10 feet of water.
Mm-hmm.
You can get into those, 20, 25 foot of water areas. You might struggle a little bit to get those fish to go, but there's a ton of fish up on the flats. I mean, some of the fish are as shallow as 5 feet.
Okay.
And side imaging and live scope can be your best friend to find those fish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we tend to catch more saugers deeper on the Mississippi. They tend to sit a little bit deeper than the walleyes. So if you're specifically targeting walleyes, it seems like you're better off in that like 10 to 15, maybe 20. But saugers, a lot of times especially the bigger ones we're catching, they'll sit pretty deep. And there's some monster sauger in the Mississippi, like some of the biggest on the earth.
That's interesting.
We like last year we caught 4 one day, and they were all between 23 and 25 inches, which are giant saugers, absolute giant.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't really do a whole lot of sauger. I mean, we got saugers in the Lake Winnebago system, so we'll run into them every now and then. But as far as the Fox River goes, we don't have saugers.
Yep.
There might be a few here scattered, but I mean, it would be pretty rare to get one.
Mm-hmm. Right. So yeah, in the Mississippi, like my go-tos are number one, blade bait, number two, like a pulsar on like a 3/8 to half ounce jig head. And I've caught quite a few fish just pitching plastics like that. And I've used a bunch of different plastics, but most of them have had paddle tails or ringworms, one of those two. And I've had really good luck with like some of the slimmer, longer paddle tail swim baits. So like there's one that Lucky John makes. Euro Tackle makes one. It's like a 3-inch slimmer paddle tail, so it doesn't have as much water resistance. So you can fish it a little deeper on a little bit lighter line. So there's not a big body on there grabbing the current. Those work really well. And those are my top two. I mean, I rarely really do anything else. Although one thing I have done is we've done some basically what do they call it? Dubuque rigging on Mississippi. So you'll run two jigs off of one line, basically off a 3-way swivel, and the upper one will be a little bit lighter, and then your bottom one will be a little bit heavier. And you can put two different plastics on and kind of hit two different colors and weights. And that lighter jig has a little bit different action than the lower, heavier jig. It'll float in the current a little bit more, and it has a completely different look to it. And sometimes that really triggers the fish. One or the other sometimes will catch most of the fish, either the bottom bait or the top bait. So that's a good rig too, and I'm sure that would work on the Fox as well.
Oh yeah, I don't want to talk too much about it because the tournament's on Saturday, but I've been playing around with some things. I'll just say that.
Okay, nice. Yeah. Any suggestions for casting the Fox from a boat at night, like throwing jerk baits on the flats?
Yeah. I mean, throwing jerk baits on the flats is definitely a good way to do it. As far as like suggestions, I would definitely suggest that. I know Rip and Reps, any of those UV colors, whether it's the pink UV or the green UV, are really good baits to be using. I like to go with size 6. But yeah, jerk baits, Rip and Reps, and Jig and Plastics have been, historically really, really good baits for fishing at night.
Yeah, if you can get in like less than 5 feet of water, jerk baits are really hard to beat. Like just slow rolled through those shallow flats at night when the walleyes get up there. Like it can be one of the most productive methods for sure. But they do have to be somewhat shallow for them to work well.
Yep, and we use P10s a lot, the Smithwick Rogues.
Yep.
And those work really well. Obviously, it's a suspending bait, so we'll do a lot of the jerk pause, and those fish just smoke it on the pause, and that is fun bite, especially when you're getting bit almost every other cast.
Oh yeah, it's so fun. Yep, that's one of my favorite things to do. We'll do that in a couple different places up here after the regular inland season opens, and then I'll do it sometimes on Lake Superior, just along the shoreline, because their season never closes up there either, and the walleyes move in after the smelt starts spawning, and you can catch some tanks at night up there doing that too.
Yeah.
Another question for Cody: is he going to buy out all the chartreuse plastics at the hut by replay? You gonna buy all the chartreuse?
I've got plenty already, so buy them up.
Are you one of those guys that says if it ain't chartreuse, it ain't no use?
I'm leaning that way, man. Like if you don't have chartreuse, 4-inch ringworm, don't go out on the Fox River. Grab that bait and then go out, because it is a killer.
Yeah, and it's crazy. Like it's such a weird color for clear water, but even in the boundary waters where it's crystal clear. I mean, we fish lakes that you can see the bottom in 20 feet. You put chartreuse on and they smoke it. It just doesn't. Yeah. It doesn't seem to look unnatural to them.
Right. It doesn't seem natural.
It looks weird to us, but you'd think it would be a dark watercolor, but it really is a good clear watercolor. It's one of the best clear watercolors there is.
Yeah.
And smallmouth are kind of the same way. Like pink is like hot pink and clown in super ultra clear water in bright sunny days when those smallmouth are just moving up on the rocks for the first time. Jerk baits in clown and bright pink, for some reason, they just smoke them. Yep, they love them. And natural colors, I'll outfish you with a clown almost every day. It's just crazy. Yeah.
And the one time I've ever fished for smallmouth on Green Bay, it was black hair jigs.
Okay. Yep. And that works at the same time that those bright colored jerkbaits work. Like you can catch them on hair jigs or marabou jigs on those flats, which are super natural, super finessey, and we could fish side by side, and I'd be catching them on a big clown X wrap, in that super clear water. Oh yeah, I mean I've caught so many fish doing that. It's stupid. Like if you hit it right, you can catch 50, 40, 50 smallies throwing jerk baits like that in the spring, and it's a blast.
Oh heck yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure you can do it down there in Green Bay too. I guarantee you.
Oh yeah. I know the Sturgeon Bay area is well known for that.
Yep.
So I'm definitely gonna be up there a few times this year doing that. I got a few buddies that want to go try it, so we'll be playing around with some smallmouths, some bronzebacks from Green Bay.
Yeah, they're fun. They're really fun, and you guys got some fish with some shoulders on them there too.
Oh yeah, absolutely, 5 or 6 pounders.
Yeah. I mean, a 5-pounder up here is a really nice fish, but we do have a lot of numbers. Like a lot of the lakes up here do have really good numbers of smallmouth in that 16 to 18 inch range. So
yeah.
After freezing day on the Fox, we ate a great dinner at Texas Roadhouse. Yeah. That's awesome. There's almost nothing better than getting a hot meal after you froze your butt off all day on the river.
Especially the cinnamon buns.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, we were just talking too, like when you do a catch and cook or like a fish fry or a shore lunch, you can't get fish that tastes that good at home. There's something about eating it outside, like a hot meal, like, fried up on the boat or on the shore or whatever. It's just the best fish ever. It's so good.
Yep.
It's the same fish, but it just tastes different.
Yep.
Hooked up Wisconsin. How much ice is still up north? All of it. We have not lost an inch. And as a matter of fact, we've been making ice every single night. I mean, it's been in the single digits here at night most nights lately, and barely above freezing during the day. We've got 30 inches of snow in my yard right now still. North of me, they have 40 to 50 inches of snow in the woods on the ground still right now between me and Lake Superior. So like our winter hasn't even started to go away yet. I mean, just a little bit on the edges of the roads. You can see a little start to open up like on the south-facing banks, but it's stupid up here. I mean, I heard you guys don't even have any snow left, basically, down there.
Yeah, we got a couple of piles left, and that's about it. But we're supposed to get a couple inches on Saturday now. So
yeah.
But the thing is, we get it, and it melts the next day. So
we got I think we're at 112 inches of snow this year right now, which is over 10 feet.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah, it's been a bad year. It's been a rough year, man. Getting around on the ice, every week it just dumps more snow and turns it to slush again and refreezes it, and it's just been brutal the whole season. Like we haven't had vehicles out on any of our lakes this year, basically, which has never happened as far as I can remember. So yeah, it's pretty crazy, but we're still ice fishing. I mean, I'm going to Lake Superior tomorrow. We're going to do an overnight out there. We're going to camp out on the lake and fish burbot all night. So
nice.
That'll be fun.
That's one thing I wanted to do. I just didn't get the chance to is the burbot fishing.
They're really cool fish, and they're really good eating. They fight hard. They bite all night. So we catch them at all hours of the night, especially in the middle of the night from like 1 a.m. to like 4 a.m. seems to be the best stretch for them. And in a good night, we'll catch a dozen, 15, 20, up to 30 some inches, Yeah. So it's a fun time.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Hi from Gambia. There's probably not much ice in Gambia right now either, I'm guessing. Yeah, the rain didn't melt hardly anything up here. Cody, did you sell your old boat yet?
The Triton? Oh yeah, the Triton's long gone. That's been sold since October.
Headed up to De Pere tomorrow. What been hot? You fish De Pere, Cody?
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, blade baits, jig and plastic, hair jigs it's all been money.
Yep, that's what we've been talking about. So how is the people situation there? Like from what I've seen, it looks like it's pretty legit. Like there's plenty of people.
Yeah. I mean, that's just something we deal with. Saturday, I don't think it's going to be too bad just because the weather's going to be terrible, and that normally scares quite a few people off. But when you get those warmer days, even on the weekdays, it can get crowded out there.
Yeah, it's one of the only destinations you can go with a boat around here in this area and catch walleyes consistently like that.
Yeah.
It's a good bite. I wish there was more places to do it. Spread the people out a little bit, but
yeah, I mean the bay is slowly starting to trickle open now. I know their launches open up in O'Connell now, and then it won't be long for the east side to open up too, and then that'll kind of clear the fox out a little bit. Just because guys will kind of spread out a little more. But
yeah, and like the Rainey's not open yet. That's all froze over. The only places you can fish really are the Fox and the Mississippi. So there's not a lot of options yet.
Yeah.
Have you ice fished Shell Lake at all this year? I have actually not ice fished Shell Lake a single time this entire season, which I don't think has ever happened. But that's one of those lakes where you can't walk out to any spots really that are close, and it's just been, we haven't been able to even use machines a whole ton up here just because the conditions have been so nasty out there, like so much snow. So I haven't been on too many lakes where you had to go a long way. But I think that's going to be good for our lakes, honestly. There's just going to be no pressure on these fish all winter. Like nobody's fishing up here. So I think this spring is going to be one of the best springs we've ever had as far as fish go. They haven't seen a bait all winter since last, September. So it could be really good.
Yeah, that's setting up to be a perfect storm there.
Yep. And they were getting pretty pressured, over the last, well, basically since COVID. Like the amount of people up here, I don't know how it's been down there, but I would say it's 10x the pressure since COVID up in our area, because we're like a vacation area and everybody had off and everybody started fishing and moving to their cabins up here, and it's just been a lot more fishing pressure.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that.
That's, which is good. I mean, I like seeing people get into the sport, and it's good for the industry, but you gotta be a little careful with your harvests and stuff like that. A little more conscientious about harvesting anything and everything, and trying to let a few more of those fish go so we can all share them.
I wish the DNR would kind of crack down on, and some of even the local lakes, is just the panfish limit. So I believe in Wisconsin it is still 25.
It is. Yep. Most places.
Which is a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a fish.
Yeah, it's way more than most people can eat in one meal, for sure.
Yep.
I keep 10 good sized panfish, and that's enough for all four of us, no problem.
Right.
So yeah, and I've seen guys take limits almost every day all winter. So there's guys that do it, and one guy doing that is like, that's a lot of fish.
Right.
Every week he's taking 100+ fish out of there. Some of these lakes, they'll go back to 2 weeks in a row, and just keep hammering them until the bite slows down. So
yeah,
there hasn't been as much of that this year, for sure.
Yeah.
John says muskies are my favorite to eat. I have never eaten a muskie, and I don't know if I ever will, but I feel like I should. I should just eat one just to see what they taste like. But
yeah, let's try a little one, right?
Yeah, you go to one of those lakes where there's a lot of them and just catch like a 30-incher where the limit's like super low, and they're trying to get them out of there. Then I would eat one. I'd try it. It would feel weird filleting one though, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah, I bet you that YouTube video would do really well.
Oh yeah, put it right on the channel and catch a 50-incher and butcher that thing on the table and see how people like it.
Yeah.
Could
you You know, I mean, even like the one I got, that one right there, put the knife to that one.
Yeah. Oh man.
It'd be sad.
You get a lot of views.
Some guys would like it. There's a lot of guys that just aren't a fan of muskies on Green Bay. You know, so.
Yeah, they're up here too.
Jokes.
I've seen them with their stomach slashed open floating before. You know, people catch one accidentally and they just kill it because they don't like them because they think they're eating their walleyes or whatever. And
yeah,
that's just not true. You know,
yeah.
they might eat a few, but that's not their primary forage almost ever.
I think the pelicans are picking off 10 times more walleyes in Green Bay than the muskies are.
Yeah, and you know, think about this. Almost every world-class walleye fishery on the planet has muskies in it.
Yep.
So you're telling me that muskies are detrimental to walleyes, yet in almost every world-class walleye fishery, there's muskies. That just doesn't add up.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I suppose you got Green Bay, Lake of the Woods.
Yep.
Mille Lacs. I mean, I don't know if you consider Mille Lacs a world-class walleye fishery, but there's a ton of walleye in that lake.
For numbers, it probably is.
Yeah, and there's giant muskies in that lake too as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Lake Erie, you know, there's some giant muskies in Lake Erie.
Yeah.
You know, other than the northern Canadian lakes where muskies are, you know, out of their range, really most of the big walleye fisheries are muskie fisheries too. So I'm not buying it.
Yeah, no. There's a documentary on that. There's I think they posted on YouTube last year, or maybe a year and a half ago, talking about that exact argument.
Okay.
Just like on Green Bay. So there is a video on YouTube floating around.
Interesting. Yeah, I haven't seen that. Are you a muskie guy? Come late summer and fall, do you target them at all, or do you stick with the walleyes?
Yeah, I don't really. There's very few times where I've actually targeted muskie. Most of the time, once August rolls around, I mean, we call it August. But once August rolls around, I mean, that's good walleye time. But otherwise, June and July, it's like salmon fishing. So yeah, I want to target them a few times this year for sure. They are fun fish to target, especially on Green Bay when you got the chance at, you know, a 50-inch fish. But I can't. It's tough to get away from the walleyes, you know.
That'd be hard for me too. Like muskies are such a time sucker. Like especially if you want to consistently catch them and get good at it, it takes a lot of time on the water and a lot of practice that you could just be absolutely drilling giant walleyes. And that's tough for me too. Like same thing with the smallmouth up here. I'm like, how can I cast these baits that are the size of the smallmouth that I could be catching right now and catching nothing and watching these 20-inch smallmouths swim past? It's just like you just can't. I don't have that kind of attention span, I guess.
Yeah.
But I'll target them now and then.
Right. If it comes down to a time crunch thing, I'll just go put a bunch of boards in and troll for them for a day and catch one or two.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep. Yeah, you can troll for miles down there and not even turn around. That's the awesome thing about Green Bay.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'd like to see the one time I did fish Green Bay was in August, and it was like I want to say late August, maybe even like towards probably it was like the third week of August or fourth week of August maybe. And yeah, we did really well on big walleyes during that time.
Yeah.
They were really aggressive. They were up on those mid-depth reefs, and it didn't matter what time of day it was, we were catching them too. It was like an all-day bite, which was kind of nice.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
What do you find on Green Bay as far as like those bite windows? Is it kind of bite window based a lot of the year, or is it like a time of year thing, or is it all the time, or what?
I mean, that time of the year, there's really not like a certain time of day where you're going to catch more than others. I mean, sometimes we catch a lot of fish, midday. Obviously, your morning time and your night times are just going to be, critical times to be fishing anyways. But the midday bite can be really good, and a lot of times it comes down to just putting baits in the fish's face and getting them to eat.
Mm-hmm.
If you're sharp, like that time of the year, we're doing a lot of sharp shooting up on reefs and stuff like that. And we're just pitching, shipper minnows, chicken wraps, whatever, just getting it in their face and getting loud and basically just triggering reaction bites. So there's really no, science behind it when you're putting the bait right in front of the fish's face and getting them to eat. You can almost get a fish to eat any time of the day when you're showing them that kind of presentation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. How about night fishing? Like I know from a couple guys that I've talked to that they don't even bother fishing during the day on Green Bay. They literally only fish at night.
Yeah, nighttime is a special time, and a lot of people say it's the right time.
Yeah.
I mean, the cool thing about fishing at night is, obviously the water cools off. The water surface temp can cool off just a little bit because that sun, goes down. And in summertime, when you're getting that really warm water and those fish kind of push deep, while those surface temp starts to drop a little bit at night, those fish will move back up shallow to feed, following bait fish, whatever it is, and you can actually troll up and down shorelines and just pound fish no matter where you are on Green Bay any time of the night. So
okay.
Night fishing can definitely be a really fun bite. Shallow reefs, anything structure-wise that you can find that's kind of up on shallower water can just be an awesome time, trolling, casting, whatever it is at night. So nighttime is definitely a fun time of the, day to fish, but it can be sketchy too sometimes. Obviously it's dark out there. You just kind of got to know the water well enough to navigate around and use caution, but it can be a really fun time to fish.
Mm-hmm. How shallow, like what's the shallowest good walleye bite you've ever gotten on in Green Bay? Like out in the Bay of Green Bay?
Honestly, the shallowest I've ever caught a walleye on Green Bay, probably 1.5 feet of water.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm assuming that was at night.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, there's some really shallow sandbars on Green Bay that you can find that load up with walleyes.
Mm-hmm.
And, honestly, I didn't even know until I caught one in there that there was walleyes that shallow. I just pushed my boards up tight to shore one night, and yeah, there was walleyes in there, and they were feeding, and we caught a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll get up in really shallow water, and they'll be really active, and you can catch them. You just got to know how to present your bait right in that type of situation. Yep. But
there's a June bite that happens up here on our natural lakes where the walleyes after dark, like when it's dark, they will move up into a foot or two of water, like inside the ends of the boat docks at night. And there'll be a lot of them sometimes. And I've learned that you can actually spot them with your headlamp. You can see their eyes and you can pitch jigs right to their eyes and catch them on like swim baits and stuff. And that's pretty dang fun. Let me tell you. It's crazy. Like you wouldn't think they would bite. You'd think they would spook from the light, but a lot of times they don't. And I've had them shining my light straight down in front of my boat, almost directly under my boat. I've seen them just come up and smoke a swim bait, like right in my light. Yeah. It's pretty crazy. We don't get a lot of big ones, but like keepers, like 15 to 18 inchers, and it's pretty fun. And it only happens for like 2 or 3 weeks in June that they do that. But I think it's like what you're saying, those daytime temps are a little too warm for them. And of course, they're not going to be shallow during the day anyway because they expose themselves, and walleyes are night fish. Yep. But that water temp's just right for them, and there's bait, up in there, and they'll get like one of the most fun nights I ever had. I fished till after dark out in the lake and never caught a walleye. I caught some other stuff, not a walleye, and I pulled up to the boat dock and I shined my light in the water, and there was walleyes all over in the blowhole at the landing, and I caught my 3 right off the boat dock at the landing, right in the blowhole. One of them was on the concrete ramp. Yep. So there was just happened to be a big pot of perch, like little baby perch in there, and they were just corralling them in that blowhole, and there was dozens of them. Yeah, that's the biggest thing. I mean, walleyes will follow the bait fish, and I think it's kind of a misconception on
on how shallow that walleyes will actually go. I mean, they'll go to where their dorsal fin is almost out of the water, you know, if they have to. So there's some areas on Green Bay that get really shallow and hold a ton of fish certain times of the day.
Yeah, that's fun stuff to explore too, if you have the time.
Yep.
We still have a foot of ice in Utah on our lakes, and it's getting old. Yeah, love hearing you guys talk about fishing. Thanks. Yeah, it's getting old for me too, and we have a good 2 feet of ice on our lakes, so you'll probably be fishing open water on those lakes before we will. Anyone want a shot of Crown Apple? I'd take one.
Yeah, I could probably force her down.
What do the new PC Fun rods look like? We had a question.
I honestly, I'm not 100% sure. I think Jason has the prototypes for those. I think they're talking about the ice rods.
Could be. Yeah, they didn't specify.
Yeah, I'm not 100% positive. I've seen the blueprints, and I think they got posted on Facebook or something. But Jason Brennick, I believe, has prototypes for those. I haven't seen them yet.
Okay. We got probably about 10 minutes left. Let's see if anyone has any questions. And while they're typing up questions, where can people find you, Cody, on the socials?
Yeah, so obviously I got YouTube. You can find me on YouTube. If you type in Cody S, all my stuff will pop up. As far as like Facebook goes, I go by Cody S Fishing on Facebook. I got a Facebook page for basically I post all my YouTube links and stuff there. A bunch of exclusive pictures and stuff like that we get from guided trips and stuff like that. And then I actually built a website, which all by myself. I figured out how to do that.
Oh, cool.
So if people want to do a book, a guided trip or something, they can go to www.csfishing.com. And yeah, here I am on Instagram too. So.
Awesome. Couple questions here. Hooked up, you said no vehicles on the ice. Does that mean no perma shanties? Yeah, basically 0 wheelhouses on our lakes this year. It's been impossible. You just can't get them out, and if you do, you ain't getting them off. So all those guys with those big wheelhouses have had to take them other places this year. Am I going to fish opener this weekend? I'm assuming you mean on the Brule for steelhead. I am not. We are going up to Lake Superior to fish burbot for the weekend. A lot of snow on the Brule mixed with a lot of people on the Brule for opener means I'm going to pass and keep ice fishing. But I will be up there probably within the next week following opener. So definitely plan on hitting that for the steelhead. Cody, where did you find the white 832 braid, or is it just old? I can't find it anywhere.
Yeah, I don't found it on Amazon. It shouldn't be hard to find. They didn't stop making it. I believe it's called Ghost. Suffix 832 Ghost, I think is what it's called. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever seen that either.
Yeah, it's on Amazon. They got all the colors on there. I just like white. I like the way it looks on the reel, and I'll actually use blue for a lot of like my Shiverman on rods on Green Bay and stuff. Just because it in that clear water, it kind of disappears a little better.
Yeah. The blue, I've used blue a few times and I liked it. I've been going the other way with my braid, but I use a really long top shot or a long leader, on my rods. But I like to see the line, like especially in low light. It's so hard to see like a clear or a green once you get into that low light, and it's just really hard to detect bites with some of the methods I use. So I've been going more to like the bright colored braids just so I can see that line jump or see it, start moving sideways when a fish takes or whatever. And as long as you use a long leader, like I use FG knots basically all the time on my braid to leader, and I usually put at least an 8-foot fluoro leader on most of my rods, so I'm not too worried about the fish seeing it either.
Yeah, I'll typically run the longer leads. Most of the time it's just an arm's length for me, but if you get in some really clear water up by like Door County and stuff, then we'll go a little longer. But
Yep. And then we have a lot of, like, when we're fishing bass tournaments up here, we'll sometimes, some of those tactics, you basically have to tie direct to the bait with your braid, because we're fishing such heavy cover. Like when we're frog fishing, for instance, you always tie direct to a frog, because you want that braid to saw through the lily pads and stuff when that big largemouth hits it.
Right.
So then I'll use regular green. I don't want neon green when I'm doing that kind of stuff. But
yeah.
How do you feel about neon green line? Well, I think we just covered that. FG versus uni to uni, which do you prefer? I'll tell you what I prefer. I'm a huge fan of the FG knot. I learned to tie it when I started fishing saltwater on bigger, like 30 pound leader. And it was so good that I just started working my way down to smaller and smaller lines. And I use it on, 8-pound braid to 6-pound fluoro, and it works really well down to that size. But when I start getting into like 4-pound, or lighter mono to mono or something like that, I've had problems with the FG when I get really, really light on the line. So then I'll go to the double uni if I'm tying, like, sometimes 6, but always if I'm going as low as 4, then I'll go with the uni to uni. It just, for some reason, the break strength just, it loses its integrity when you get down to those lighter pound tests. But from 8 and up, it's absolutely ridiculous knot, the FG knot.
Yeah.
What do you use, Cody?
I honestly don't use either one of those. I use an Albright. It's just, there's really no personal preference there. It's just what I learned to tie at a young age, and it's quick and easy for me. So I haven't took the time to learn any the other knots, But yeah, and Albright's what I use for braid to fluoro. I don't have too many issues with it at all. So
I could see FG if you're using a bait caster with a rod with micro guides. Yeah, I mean, an FG is I don't see how you could make a knot any slimmer than an FG knot. It's so small that you don't even feel it when you're reeling it through the guides. And like I said, I like to use really long leaders, so I'm always reeling that knot through the guides every single time I make a retrieve. So like that small profile is super important to me. If you're not reeling the knot through the guides, you can use any line-to-line knot and it's no issue. But that's a huge factor when you're using long leaders, for sure.
Yep. And when you get into icy situations too.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, that's very true. When you're dragging that knot over the edge of the ice. Species Spotlight says FG knot is the deal. Long leaders are so important too. Yep, I agree. It's braid is the bomb. Like, it is. That's where it's at. But you do need long leaders to effectively really do well, and for several reasons. One of the reasons is when I get down to that last 6-7 feet of line, I want it to stretch a little bit at the net. I don't want that shock of braid right on the fish with those light hooks and stuff. So it helps with that as well when you've got a top shot of 7-8 feet. Gives you a little bit of rubber band action. New Piscifun open water rods, ? Is there some new open water rods coming out, or?
Yeah, I think there is. I don't know. I don't really know nothing about it.
Okay. I use an FG knot rigging at home, but uni if I'm in the boat and don't have time. Yeah, that's the one downfall of the FG. It does take a little longer to tie, but man, when you tie a few hundred of them, you get pretty good at it. Like, I can tie one pretty quickly, even in the boat with cold fingers, and it's not too bad.
That's the worst.
It is. It is. Seagar Blue Label for life. Yeah, I'm a Seagar guy too. It's really tough to beat that stuff.
I don't use Blue Label.
What kind do you use?
I use Seagar Abrazex.
Yeah.
Is what I use. I normally go with 15 pound.
Mm-hmm.
But I have tried the Red Label.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had a lot of issues.
Me too. Yeah, I don't use the red label ever anymore. I had too many
Yeah.
problems with it.
Yeah,
It's a cheaper line.
I haven't had any issues with the Abrase X. That's been really good to me.
Yeah, the Abrase X is good. The blue label is good. And frankly, you can just use the regular Seaguar like full spools of casting fluoro for making leaders, and it works great. I've used that many, many times, and it's absolutely awesome for that too.
Yep.
Species Spotlight, Seaguar is great. Been testing some other Japanese shock leaders as well. Yeah, some of those Japanese lines are really amazingly strong for how thin they are, for sure.
Yeah, I use I don't even know what it's called. It's a Japanese line, but it's like in a yellow package.
Okay.
I use their 50-pound fluoro for salmon fishing.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have any issues with that stuff. It's strong.
Okay. I've used P-line too. I've had pretty darn good luck with P-line. That's good fluoro. It's a little cheaper too, but it does the job, and it's pretty good. It's pretty good as far as like line size. It's pretty comparable to Seaguar. Like I've noticed, like you go buy 8-pound, for instance, any other brand of fluoro than Seaguar, and it's going to be way higher diameter. It's way thicker than the Seaguar. It's just the Seaguar is just much thinner line for the weight strength that you get.
Yep.
Yozuri, is that the one you use? Yozuri line? No,
it's something different. I think it starts with a J.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Species Spotlight says I'm looking for the leader line with the most abrasion resistance per diameter. Yeah, and that's really important. I know Species Spotlight, he fishes for all kinds of crazy different stuff down in Florida, like anything and everything you can think of. And a lot of those fish have sharp teeth, so abrasion resistance is important down there for sure. Do you think the shadow jigging wraps will be the deal in suspending fish live scoping? I can't wait to try them out. What do you think? What's your take on the new shadow jigging wraps?
Yeah, I haven't really played around with them a whole lot yet. I know they have a slower fall rate, if I'm not mistaken, I believe, than like a traditional jigging wrap.
Mm-hmm.
So I could definitely see them being a pretty good deal on suspended fish. But I don't know if you could ever, like, the guys that have that spoon program dialed for suspended fish, I mean, that's a good way to go. And then honestly, last year I ran a lot of that Walleye Nations Creations depth jig.
Okay.
The night crawler. Mm-hmm. And as far as suspended fish go, you can't beat that, especially when you're sharpshooting with live scope. It's probably one of my favorite baits to toss at suspended walleyes.
Okay. Interesting. Jay Davis says the shadow wraps are so light, I don't like them. Yeah, that's kind of what I've been hearing, a little bit of feedback on them, that they're almost too light to snap jig, which, like that's part of the attraction of those big, heavy, glide baits, is that they have a really fast fall rate. So number one, you can sharpshoot fish with them really quickly and get down there. And number two, you can do that real quick jerk and they just pop off the bottom and slam back into it, and it's a trigger. I don't think those new shadow wraps are going to do that as much. It's going to be a different way of fishing, I think, than you're used to. If you're used to using like a regular jigging wrap or one of those type baits.
Yeah, I don't know. It might be something that I play around with this year, maybe. But shiver minnows and those depth jigs are pretty much my go-tos. That's my basically 1-2 punch out there. So I'll have to venture away from that.
Yeah, I've had really good luck. I mean, I'm just a swim bait nut, so like a paddle tail on a jig head will do it too. Like I've caught a lot of fish, vertical jigging them, even, and sharpshooting fish on them. Like I've drop shotted them. Like you can fish a paddle tail so many ways, and they just flat out catch fish.
Right.
Snook will break off leaders even without teeth. They learn to avoid heavy leaders too. Yeah, no kidding. Snook are a pain in the butt because they hate big leaders and they love to snap light ones. They'll just rake their teeth over them, and they've got really sharp gill plates, and they can cut like 30-pound fluoro, you know, if you hook a big one, might not be enough. Like they can fray that right off. It's crazy. Plus, they're insane fish too.
Yeah, I've only caught a few snook. A few March, like 2 years ago, I went down to Florida tarpon fishing, and I got the opportunity to catch a few snook. And like for the size of those fish, they fight.
Oh yeah, yeah. They'll rip 30 yards of drag off your reel before you know what happened if you hook a big one. I've caught them up to 44 inches is my biggest snook. So I've caught some very upper end snook, and they're a whole different animal. Like they're one of the strongest fish I've ever hooked. And they're not like, there's other fish down there that'll fight harder and longer, but snook just go crazy. They're like a muskie almost. They just start jumping and going nuts. And they just peel drag like a pike, like big long runs. They don't have the stamina that some of the other fish down there have, like the jacks and stuff like that. But man, they are fun to catch.
Absolutely.
A big jack is just like, you hook a big jack crevalle, those things are unbelievably strong. Like they just don't give up.
Yep, they are fun.
It's like hooking a 20-pound bluegill. You know, they just turn sideways and they just, you can't move them suckers. It's crazy.
Yep. Yeah, they're like pure muscle.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, they're strong fish, fun to catch, and aggressive.
Oh yeah.
Well, I think we got to wrap her up, but it's been fun, Cody. I think everybody enjoyed it. We had some good discussion, some good questions. I always like hearing what everybody's asking this time of year. You know, it's kind of the typical stuff, but
yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, we'll have to do it again, maybe in August, and we can hear about some of those big tanks you're catching.
Yeah, we should definitely get you up here too, or I should say down here.
Yeah, down there.
Catch some fish, get you in the boat.
Yeah, we'll try and make it happen. I'd love to do a collab video or something sometime. So that'd be fun.
Yeah, for sure, it'd be fun.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for hopping on, and everybody for asking questions and being part of it. And we'll see you next time. See you, Cody. Have a good night.
Yeah.